Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we're being joined by Connie Inukai, author of How I Got My Product on QVC, The Today Show, The View, and more in my retirement. Connie, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Paul. Nice to be here.
How did I do in the pronunciation of your last name?
You were perfect.
All right.
You were perfect. It's a hard name to say. It's Japanese, actually.
Well, Connie, we are thrilled to have you. Are you ready to begin?
Sure.
All right. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Okay. Well, that's a very good question. I would say be grammatically correct, but don't stress about grammar as you're writing it. But, do it after you're done with it and check your grammar many, many times. Go to an editor. Just do that. And the reason I say this is so important is because I used to teach writing in college, and I taught to engineers how to write, and they were brilliant. But if they made a mistake, it's okay to make one. But if they make a few mistakes in grammar, people are going to think that they're not as smart as they are, and they're going to question what they're writing, and they're going to just stop reading whatever they write. So I think that you have to be grammatically correct. And actually, I stress that. I wrote my book is I'm an inventor, by the way. I invented a product called Tip and Split, and after I invented it, I wrote a book about how to get publicity for a product, which can relate also to anybody who's writing a book. I give 8 buzz tips on how to get publicity. Have you read my book, Paul?
Not yet, no.
Okay, well, I can send it to you, okay?
Oh, great.
I have 8 buzz tips. My first one says, be positive and surround yourself with positive people. And that especially applies to people who are writing a book, because you don't want to be around people who say, what are you doing this for? Why are you doing this? You want to be around people who encourage you. So I have 8 buzz tips, and it's about inventing, but it can relate to anything in life. Okay, so the most important thing that I recommend is to be grammatically correct, but don't stress on it while you're writing. Stress on it after you're done writing.
And what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Oh, that's a very good question, because I had no knowledge about how to publish my book. It's sort of like I was an inventor. I had no knowledge of how to invent. So I had to just read about it and learn about it. And so that was really, really tough. And I didn't know people like you who actually help people like me on how to get your book published. So I just did a lot of research and published it on Amazon. And since I've met you, I've learned a lot of other tips from your podcast guests. And might I say that I love your podcast. For anybody who wants to publish a book, yours is the best.
Well,
okay? And I wish I had known it when I started writing my book.
Well, we appreciate the kind words, and I'd like to talk a little bit about marketing. So could you please share with us a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well?
Okay, well, you see, I didn't know anything about it, but I was in a few inventors' Facebook groups. So I actually promoted it to other inventors starting out. I would just tell them about my book, and everybody loved the idea of it because everybody wants publicity. Once they invent something, or once they write a book, they want to get publicity. So then I started doing podcasts, and every podcast I mentioned my book, and so people learn about my book. And then I became a speaker, and I became a speaker mainly because I wrote a book. Now, so everybody wants to hear about my book. So let me tell you one thing, Paul. I'm 72 years old, and I am new to all of this. I was a teacher for over 40 years. So this is all new to me. So I'm learning all these strategies of how to do it. And I'm finding that being on podcasts helps launching a book. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's one of the best strategies, especially long term, because when you're on podcasts constantly, it's just one of the best ways to promote it. When you're a guest on a show, if you have your own one, just constantly talking about it, bringing that up. I think it's one of the best strategies that you can do for long term sustained sales.
Right. And I have actually, okay, no, I'll talk about that later. Forget it. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
So, everybody knows that I was a teacher, and I have a passion for good writing because I taught writing for over 40 years. So my favorite book is The Elements of Style by Strunk and White. I use it all the time to remind me about good style. And I especially like that book because it's got a little history. I'm sure you've heard of Strunk and White. Have you heard of them?
I believe I have.
Well, Strunk was a professor at Cornell University, and he wrote the original Elements of Style, and White was his student, and he revised the book so it became the book on how to fix your style and your grammar. And another little-known fact about it is that Strunk was a professor, and E.B. White, not only did he write The Elements of Style, but he was also the author of Charlotte's Web and Stuart Little. So he was very diverse. Oh, okay. Actually, can I just throw in one more favorite book?
Sure.
Here? Okay, great. Because I just wrote a second book, and that's my absolute favorite book. During the pandemic, I wrote a book about my life. And this is not a book that I'm going to publish. This is a book that I give away to my family members. I have 3 children and 5 grandchildren, and it's a book about my life. And actually, as my new project during COVID, because of my age, I'm a high-risk category. I don't like going out, so I'm helping other people in my age category to write their own life story. And actually, you can see mine. It's called Write Your Selfie. WriteYourSelfie.com.
I love it. Okay. That's the best way to leave a legacy, in my opinion.
Right. Well, I had so much fun writing it. So that's besides the Elements of Style, I like my book. It's called My Life.
Excellent. And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
Okay, so my favorite quote, this is something I have on my desk that I look at every day, and it says, "What if I fall? Oh, but my darling, what if you fly?" That's by Erin Hansen. She's a young woman, and I absolutely love that quote because this is what I live by. I'm trying new things all the time, and it really doesn't matter if I fail. At least I'm trying.
I love it. Well, Connie, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
Okay, so I have a new website, and it's called grandmapreneurinventor.com. It's a long one. And on that, it's www.grandmapreneurinventor.com. And on that website, I have my book. I have also my invention is on it, and I also have my a link to my website about writing your life story called Write Your Selfie. All of those are on there. And yeah, you can also contact me at Connie at grandmapreneurinventor.com.
I love that, Brandon. Well, Connie, I want to thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Thank you, and thank you very much for your wonderful podcast that writers can learn so much from, about publishing. And I will use you the next time.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.